been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Listen, Kevin Durant might not want to be here. Judd's Power doesn't want to be here today. The sports dad grinding it out right now.
Nope.
From a powerless home. He's sitting in the dark. Food's going to spoil.
The living room. Yeah, the food. You know what? Don't open the fridge. That's the key. Don't let
those people that get a little snacky during the storm hasn't even arrived yet. So I don't know what's going to happen in like 5 or 6 hours when, golf ball sized hail starts pelting your powerless house. But before we get into this episode of Flagrant Howls, which will include the latest Timberwolves news. Does Kevin Durant want to be here or not? Let's talk about Neos Elite Performance here to kick off this episode. Judd, if you're a 37-year-old athlete that wants to feel like he's 27 perhaps, who should you turn to?
Well, then you should definitely turn to our friends at Neos Elite Performance, who are going to help you not just get back on your feet. They're going to help you get back in the game. So if chronic pain is holding you back, what you've got with Neos is cutting-edge regenerative medicine, cellular IV therapy designed to get you going again without invasive procedures. We are talking about white glove service. That means the experts at Neos are going to come to you. No trips to the doctor's office. You are going to get care, and it is going to work. Their therapies are going to reduce that pain, restore your function, and get you back to doing what you love. Also, if you reference our flagship show, Purple Daily, you're going to get $500 off. That's right, $500 off a cellular IV therapy treatment. No surgery, no downtime, just results. Neos, N-E.
I think we may have lost the sports dad. That's Neos Elite, N-E-O-S Elite. We'll see if we can. He's grinding through. He did a 53-man roster projection this morning for Flagrant Howls. But so I'm going to throw out the latest reporting from the last 48 hours on Kevin Durant here, and then we can get our thoughts on the table, and then kind of figure out what the paths are for the Timberwolves. So Shams via ESPN had these two tweets over the weekend. The Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs, and Houston Rockets are on Kevin Durant's preferred trade destinations list out of Phoenix. Those across the NBA have been made aware in recent days that those are the three teams that Durant would commit to long term. Now, The Athletic actually pared it down even. So ESPN and Shams are saying it's Houston, San Antonio, and Miami. The Athletic is saying, no, it's actually San Antonio and Houston are the two that he's looking at. Shams adds that Durant is on an expiring $54.5 million contract for this upcoming season. So he's looking at, he can sign a 2-year, $120 million extension on top of that third or the final year. So it'd be essentially 3 years of a very expensive Kevin Durant. The Suns have made it clear to Durant, because he doesn't have a no trade clause, so he can kind of dictate a little bit, but ultimately the Suns could just trade him wherever they want to, that they've made it clear to 6 to 8 seriously interested teams that they'll make the best deal for the franchise, even outside of his preferred list of Miami, San Antonio, and Houston. So that's Shams. And then this morning on ESPN, just kind of monitoring what the national talking heads and media are saying, Brian Windhorst came on and said, listen, where Durant wants to go is perfectly fine. He said San Antonio, Houston, but Phoenix controls this interaction because they get to trade him without the no trade clause, wherever they want to. So Wendy said Minnesota has been the most aggressive team, and he thinks Minnesota is still a narrow favorite to land Kevin Durant because the Suns will take the best package. And to this point, the Wolves have been the most aggressive in working with Phoenix to put the best trade package on the table. And sitting, I guess, in the same virtual studio as Wendy this morning on ESPN was Jay Williams, who's very plugged into the Kevin Durant camp. And even after they went through the news of, hey, he wants San Antonio, Houston, Jay Williams said, I acknowledge that is apparently where he wants to play, but I still think Minnesota remains the best fit. So let's bring no power Judd Zulgad back into the mix here. We have
breaking news. Breaking news.
Power's back.
Power is back. I can go back in my office. I can resume my life. Thank you,
It's the
XL.
latest Timberwolves news.
Judd here.
I will be back in a second. I will be on my computer. Goodbye, Stella. I'll see you later.
Sounds good. Okay. So I think my question is, I'll throw it to you, Dex, for this. If it swayed Kevin, let me ask you this. Do you care that he doesn't really want, would you try to push the Suns and push Durant against his will? Or would you need confirmation that, no, he really likes it here potentially, and he really would want to play here? Does it deter you that apparently he doesn't have Minnesota as one of his top 2 or 3 teams?
I don't think it deters me, no. With landing Durant, this just comes down to, I think, and we might be having this conversation for the next week or so, and we'll see how quickly a trade does happen. But for me, it's more of the cost for Durant than it is necessarily like the willingness and how much he likes Minnesota or doesn't like Minnesota. If they can figure out a way to land him with keeping Jaden McDaniels around and potentially keeping some of these younger guys like Shannon Jr., except they can keep those guys around, I'm in on that. In terms of the willingness, though, does he not like Minnesota? He has a great relationship with Ant. I don't think the Wolves are he's not looking at this situation saying do not trade me to Minnesota. I will not report. I'm not going to show up at all. I don't really lean that way with it.
I kind of read it the same way. I think, all right, if you're him, you're going to be 37 years old. You've played a lot of basketball in California, a lot of basketball in New York, and states with very high state income tax rates. And if given full choice of where you'd want to play, if you could go from 8 or 10% state income tax, or whatever it's been in some of the states that he's played. California is 13% when he was playing, or 12% when he was playing for Golden State. And I think that's a per game basis, so it's really only the home games that you would get taxed on that, and the time that you spend. It's kind of complicated, but yeah, okay, cool. It'd be great to not pay state income tax. It'd be great to not play in cold weather. Some people were digging up a tweet from him from 2009 over the weekend, 16 years ago, in which he was talking about how he hates cold weather and how anything under 50 degrees is cold for him. Again, that was 16 years ago. But if you're looking at legacy, if you're looking at fun factor even for Kevin Durant later in his career, how do you want to land this plane the next 2 or 3 years? Winning a championship for the Minnesota Timberwolves, to me, would carry more weight for his legacy than the 2 championships he won latching on to an already ready-made dynasty.
Yeah.
That's the biggest criticism of his career, is that he's been a team hopper and a coach killer, and the 2 championships he won in Golden State, well, they could have won those without him. So he just latched on because they had already broken the NBA regular season wins record the year before he got there, and they had beat the Cavs, I think it was, in the championship series the year before. So, if he were to pull kind of a Kawhi Leonard and just go even for 1 year, Kawhi went to Toronto, and I was in Toronto a couple months ago for an industry conference. Kawhi Leonard is a legend in Toronto, having gone there for 1 year.
Yeah.
So I think. And I don't know, maybe he doesn't give a rip about his legacy. I think the way that he kind of communicates with people on Twitter, he's more of at least he says he doesn't really care about that stuff. But I think playing with Anthony Edwards, potentially winning a championship in Minnesota, okay, so you pay a little bit more in state income tax, and it's cold once in a while. KD, we'll find you a nice little place to stay where you can take Skyways, a private driver will pick you. You don't have to step foot outside, basically, in the wintertime. Okay, let's get the sports dad back in here again from his lair. Unmute yourself, by the way.
Unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm back in the room. Thank you. I didn't know I was muted.
What do you make of, so the reports over the weekend, San Antonio and Houston are KD's preferred landing spots, but then you've got Windy coming out and saying, well, Phoenix controls the interaction because there's no trade clause here.
Right.
And the Timberwolves have been the most aggressive team, and so Minnesota's still on the fringes of this thing. What do you think? If KD were to say, hey, I would hate it there, which is, by the way, what he did. There was a Golden State conversation in February, and the Suns could have sent him to Golden State, and he said, I don't want to go back there. I just have my legacy was kind of apparently tarnished because of it. So they're respecting him a little bit in his wishes.
Sure.
But would you need like assurance that oh no, he actually is okay playing here, or if Phoenix said, yeah, we'll trade him and you can deal with the pushback if he's pissed about it? How do you view this current situation?
Well, first of all, I think he wants to end his career probably in a place that is warmer and with no state income taxes. But that being said, and I think that when I got back on, Phil, you were talking about this. If I'm the Timberwolves, I have no interest in signing him to a long-term contract. So this works out perfect. I also think that this is, and I mean, this is not surprising. I also think this is a game of cat and mouse leaks. So I'm not buying anything at this point. Like, it's changing by the day, and like Thursday, it's like, oh, KD to the Timberwolves looks like it might be a done deal, and then on Friday, it's like, well, no, he wants to go to Houston and San Antonio. I believe this. First of all, the Suns did him a favor, obviously, by not trading him to Golden State, but I don't think they're going to continue to repeat that again and again and again. I find it hard to believe that if he was to spend the last year of his current contract, correct, in Minnesota, playing with Ant, and the Suns liked what the Timberwolves were offering more than, let's say, the Spurs and the Rockets, I think he comes here and then he leaves. So he's a mercenary for one year. But I mean, that's what makes it so intriguing. The one place where, if I'm the Wolves, I would draw a line is if he says, the only way I'm going to play for you if I get a multi-year contract. I want 4 more years. I'm like, I'm good on that. But do I think he could help you win a championship with Ant in 1 year? I think it's worth exploring.
And and that's the thing, like this weird game of chicken too. It's like, okay, yeah, I get if you're him, it'd be nice to know where am I spending the next 3 years. If he thinks he's got, because all the chatter is that it's that 2-year, $120 million extension that he's eligible for on top of the 1 year, $54.5 million. So that would mean 3 years and around $175 million that you would be committing to if you extended him for ages 37, 38, 39. I am not interested in the 2-year, $120 million extension at this point, or the age 38 or 39 seasons. I am interested in Kevin Durant, age 37, acquiring him without gutting Jaden McDaniels, who, by the way, John Krasinski from The Athletic reported over the weekend too, that the Wolves are not putting Jaden McDaniels on the table here. So you're telling me 1 year of KD at 37, keeping Jaden, keeping Naz, Anthony Edwards another year closer to his prime, and then Terrence Shannon Jr. You wouldn't be gutting all your bench and peripheral pieces. I'm interested in that, and I don't think if the Wolves said we're trading for a year of Kevin Durant, we're not worried about the age 38, 39 seasons, and even if he was a little disgruntled about it, if Phoenix went through with it. You're telling me he would like dig his heels in and not report to camp in late September with Anthony Edwards, a guy that he has openly said he'd love to play with and admires as a young talent in this league? So there might be some bluffs to be called here too throughout this process.
Yeah, and plus we don't know at this point what's true and what's not true. The only thing that we could deduce or deduct here is that going to end your career or your last couple of years or 3 years in a place that's warm and you don't have to pay state income taxes is nice. But I'm with you on the Ant point. I think so. If Ant was not here, I would say, okay, no, don't do this. But I have a hard time believing that this dude is going to basically say, I so don't want to play for a team that, by the way, has been to back-to-back Western Conference championships. And think about this too. Unlike in Golden State, where I think rightly or wrongly, and at this point in time, it's not that important. It all became, well, KD went there to chase a championship, and he was sort of a fraud because he wasn't really the guy. That team had Steph. That guy had Draymond. That team had a bunch of pieces, including Clay. Here, if you came here and won, it would be totally on the up and up. Like, Ant is the focal point, but he needs a running mate. Like, KD to me was an ingredient that got sprinkled on a Golden State team that probably could have won championships without him. I think it's very clear now the Timberwolves do not have the formula yet. So if KD comes here and wins a championship, I think unlike with the Warriors, he gets full credit. It's not nearly as mercenary like in that sense as it was with the Warriors.
100%. And again, I think he is one of the rare NBA superstars that seems to not really care about legacy as much in that regard. He definitely cares what people think enough to be clapping back and forth with people on Twitter. But from like an existential standpoint, it kind of, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But if he cares at all about how people remember his basketball career, does he want to go out with his 2 championships being these sort of like these latching on to a dynasty? Boy, he couldn't get it done in Oklahoma City. If you ended your career by helping the Timberwolves win their first championship, it would mean more, in my opinion, than the 2 that he won in Golden State. And if you go through this other list, it would mean more than being the next superstar to jump into the Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Miami Heat culture that they've built for 25 years. They've got a bunch of titles with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, right? The San Antonio Spurs have hit a lull, and they're on their way back up, and Wemby is the focal point there. But that's a team that's been a dynasty and has been one of the best organizations in basketball. Houston won a couple titles in the 90s, and it's been a minute. But like in terms of what the championship would mean to that organization and to your remembrance as a player and a superstar, Minnesota would mean the most. And I don't think that's a homer take. I think it's a fact.
Are you buying he doesn't care, though? See, I think he tries to act like he doesn't, but everything he does says he does care. He's incredibly sensitive. See, I think the reality is this. I think he fights back against the legacy stuff because he cares so much. He wants you to think he doesn't care. So, yeah, everything he says makes you think one thing. But I think what's more important is what he does. And what KD does to me says he cares deeply. So I think he's very offended. And the Golden State thing is a conversation. Like, he joined a product. It's not like he joined up with the forces like LeBron did to make a super team. He joined a super team in progress and fit in, and that's awesome. But yeah, I'm with you. And again, just from a reporting standpoint and stuff, I guess this is one case where there's so many different flares being sent out that I don't know what to believe, and I'm inclined to believe that they're all incredibly flawed. Like and it's not the reporter's fault. The Timberwolves operate also, I mean, this comes back to Tim Connelly, right, you guys? He operates in the shadows. Like, I'm sure he wants everyone to think, we're out. No way, we're out, right? Because that's where he loves to come in then and drop it one day that he's made a trade. And I do think the Suns... I do buy this. I think the Suns have to do what's best for the Suns. Like, at this point, if KD doesn't like it, but the Timberwolves will take him and he'll come and play here, screw it. I'm going to take whatever the best package is. I'm not going to be... It's not like KD is a lifelong Sun and, oh my God, this great career is coming to an end.
Yeah, they don't like owe him.
They have... Exactly. I'm taking what I can get.
And he didn't help them.
Package.
They didn't win a championship. I think I don't think the relationship is, in flames or anything. But yeah, like if you're Phoenix, you're trying to figure out Phoenix.
Hey, question off that point, Phil.
More Timberwolves news.
And this might have a change or it might not. How much do you think the Desmond Bane Memphis-Orlando trade potentially changed the market on Sunday?
I heard some of that chatter like, oh, if Desmond Bane got this much, then this like zero. Totally different circumstances. And we've also seen there's no rhyme or reason. It's not like NFL quarterback contracts, for instance, where like in basketball, there's max and super max and you get a percentage. There's not even really a debate on like the biggest contracts. So in football, this quarterback made that much money and I'm next in line. Well, then therefore I deserve this much. It's not like that in basketball always. Rudy Gobert got this much. Therefore, all these other players, it's so circumstantial. What assets does the team trading the draft picks have to give up? Do they have a boatload of picks? Are they like Oklahoma City? They literally have 13 first-round picks over the next handful of years or whatever it is. Orlando had a lot of assets, a lot of picks, young players, a veteran contract or two. And Memphis is kind of pissed about where they're at as an organization. And by the way, Desmond Bane is 10 years younger, 11 years younger than Kevin Durant and is on a lesser contract for more years. So you're getting one of the premier shooting guards and premier three-point shooters in the league for like, I think it's 3 or maybe because he just signed an extension pretty recently. So you're getting like 3 or 4 years of prime peak Desmond Bane on a team that was one of the worst shooting good teams in the league. So he helped solve, it's the perfect problem to solve. It's the perfect aged player position. He slides right into that starting lineup. And so for them, like, hell yeah, we'll give up 4 first-round picks. I don't think there's any market for Kevin Durant on that level at age 37. It's one expensive guaranteed year of Kevin Durant at age 37. And so I don't even know that you can even like use that Desmond Bane trade as a barometer. Like, it's just a trade that happened over here.
Sure.
And the Durant thing continues to operate over here. The only way I would have said that the Desmond Bane trade impacted the Durant situation is if it was like a 3 or 4 team trade and it swallowed up some of the assets that would have maybe gone into a 3 or 4 team Kevin Durant trade. Now, there is one interesting tentacle to that Desmond Bane trade. It's the latest Timberwolves news. There's some speculation that Memphis might keep going here. And there's been some conflicting reports on this, but how far will they take this? What could they get? Would they try to get out of the Ja Morant business, which you'd be kind of selling low on him off the last 2 years, but how far would they take this? Well, Bovada came out with Ja Morant next team odds. We had a Ja Morant conversation on this podcast last week of like, okay, who could that running mate, if it's not KD, it's not Giannis, who's that running mate next to Anthony Edwards? Well, Bovada does not have the Timberwolves listed among the top 9 likely next teams. It's Toronto number 1 for Ja Morant if they decide to go forward. The Kings number 2, Nets, Heat, Blazers, Rockets, Pelicans, Clippers, and Lakers. So, and we kind of already had that conversation last week. If you missed it, check it out. Brand new Flagrant Howls YouTube channel. Thank you guys. We're almost to 4,000 subscribers. So click that like button, the subscribe button. We appreciate all of you who've jumped on board this thing. But so here's my question back to you guys. If they don't land KD and if they have to go to like whatever their plan B is, it sounds like KD is plan A right now, just based on the reporting. So what's plan B? What's plan C? Which of these 3 bins sounds most appealing to you guys? Because I think there's 3 general bins of how do you proceed? What levers can you pull if you don't wind up with Kevin Durant? Bin number 1 is the run it back bin, which is literally Rudy stays, Julius Randle, opt-in or extension, Naz Reid, either an opt-in or extension, and maybe you say goodbye to Nickeil Alexander-Walker because you can't afford the $10 to $14 million he's going to make. So you essentially run it back. You squeeze it all just under the second apron, and it's a little more Terrence Shannon Jr., maybe it's Anthony Edwards a year better. So that would be bin number 1. Bin number 2 would be marginal additions or tweaks. Like you bring in Alonzo Ball or just like a point guard that's not 20 or 38 years old. Maybe you trade Rudy for like a Nick Claxton. You get a younger rim runner, but it's like a marginal move of some kind. Or bin number 3, which is go find a different big move that isn't Kevin Durant, be it Darius Garland, who we've talked about. He's out for like 5 months with toe surgery. Derek White has been bandied about from the Celtics. Trae Young, there's some speculation that maybe this might be the end for him in Atlanta. Kobe White with the Bulls, a 6'5" combo guard. Colin Sexton with the Jazz, kind of up in flux. So run it back, marginal addition, and let internal guys get better and the nucleus keep growing, or aim for a different big move.
I would rank these bin 3 being my top option.
So big move.
Yep, big move. I know I love to use it, but that is literally the mystery box analogy because we don't know what's in the mystery box. But I think I would open that box, and then I would actually go bin number 1 as my second option, and then bin number 2 as my third. So I wouldn't hate completely running it back. I know that they've already hit their ceiling as, they went to back-to-back Western Conference Finals, which is great, but they haven't, won a second game in any of those, or haven't even been forced it to be a Game 6 situation. So I get why that wouldn't be the sexiest option, but I'd go bin 3, or I'd go run it back.
Judd, what about you? Big move, another big move, run it back, or marginal changes?
I think I would go with if this is the one that it fell into, I think I would go with the marginal change, and the guy that I really would like is Derek White.
See, I put that's the big move, Ben. Though I feel
Okay,
like.
well then, that's the one I want. Yeah, I want Derek. Yeah, you know what? That's a guy like you need that. You don't have.
I love me. He's such a good player. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And he would bring a stability that you lack now. And Phil, you've said this a bunch, but it's true. Mike Conley can simply not play enough and probably shouldn't start now. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a place on your team, but you can't rely on him to play substantial minutes now. Dillingham, who I don't want to give up on necessarily, which I talked about before, but you also, with where you're at, is he prepared to step into that role? And the one thing that I think that the Timberwolves desperately need in watching them to make it beyond, like to get to Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals or to get past the Western Conference Finals entirely, is a guy like White, who's a very good player and also a stabilizer. They lack that. So, yes, if that's the big move, that's the move. Like, of all the positions we're discussing, I would love to bolster that because it would give you a guy that can shoot. It would give you a guy that can handle the ball, and you wouldn't have constant questions about how long can he play, either because of his age being too old or his age being too young, and you're concerned about the fact that he's out of control too often.
Yeah, I mean, Derek White in this, I actually put Derek White above Kevin Durant in terms of like who I would love to see next to Anthony Edwards for the next 1 to 3 years.
Sure.
Durant would be the flashiest and the biggest headline and maybe the most fun just because it's freaking Kevin Durant.
Right.
And the history between Durant and Anthony Edwards. But in terms of age, what he provides offensively and defensively, leadership, all of those things, Derek White would be such a home run. You'd have to give up more, I think, to get Derek White than to get Kevin Durant based on age, contract, etc. I did find this from Celtics Wire over the weekend, which is it's the USA Today Celtics section of their website, and they put together based on the latest from Shams, Steinlein, Jake Fisher, just some of the NBA insiders, because the Celtics are looking to get out of the second apron. They're going to move one of their big contracts, especially with Jason Tatum on the sideline. And so they have deduced that Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White are all reportedly on the table for a trade. But then there's a report this morning, and I wish I could credit to the right outlet. I saw this come across my NBA Twitter this morning, but that the Suns, in their discussions surrounding Kevin Durant, are doing homework on Kristaps Porzingis in like a multi-team trade for him to maybe come back and play next to Devin Booker. So that's now 4 highly expensive Celtics that are all at least being bandied about behind the scenes in trade discussions. I'll add one more thing to this in terms of like ranking these bins. I think aim for a different big move if it's the right guy. Like if it's a Derek White, that's my number 1. But my number 2 would be, I think it's like a marginal tweak that allows you to lean more into Jaden McDaniels as an offensive player and putting Naz Reid. If you're going to bring back Naz Reid, put him in positions for Naz Reid to play at his best. And if that means starting, okay, like let's clear the runway for that to finally happen after the last couple of years. But I think like this team can get better by Anthony Edwards getting a year older and closer to his prime, and Jaden McDaniels not having to sit in the corner and watch Julius Randle back guys down for 36 minutes every single night. Unlock what Jaden McDaniels could be.
I don't know if I'm spoiling latest Timberwolves news, but did you see what Bill Simmons had to say about the Durant situation over the weekend?
It's the latest Timberwolves news. Hit us with it.
So this also, I believe Will Raggets at Bring Me the News wrote up the conversation that Bill added on his recent pod. He says, I don't think he needed help when talking about Anthony Edwards. I think he needed a bleeping point guard. That's what they need. If I'm going to make trades, I'm not trading for Kevin Durant. I want to get somebody who can actually handle the ball, take the pressure off Edwards, and get fast breaks. In that OKC series, Conley looked like he was 50 years old. That's why they lost. They couldn't bring the ball up. It wasn't because they didn't have enough scoring. That's not the series I watched. And then he went on to say, I think they need a point guard, and I don't think Durant changes their destiny at all. So Bill, very out on Durant to Minnesota.
Yeah, spicy. It's spicy. Yeah, because you could argue that Durant is on paper the guy that can run with Anthony Edwards, and you've got your secondary scorer. But would a non-38-year-old or 20-year-old point guard who knows how to get into actions and who isn't going to get stripped by Alex Caruso in the second quarter of a big playoff game, does that allow others to thrive offensively more, to where Jaden McDaniels becomes a secondary scorer more often, like he was for a month and a half during the season? Here's another interesting report that just came across, presented, by the way, by Safeside BBQ. Let's shout those guys out before we go further on latest Wolves news here, Judd.
Yeah, you know what? Wolves news is great, right? But let me give you the news on brisket, folks, because that's absolutely outstanding. And let's talk about the best barbecue food truck in the West Metro, and that is our friends at Safeside. 100% wood-fired smoking for juicy, savory, tender meat. No electric smokers or ovens are used. Everything is homemade right there. The bread is made to order for those sandwiches. Absolutely outstanding. Find them at SafesideBBQ.com and on Facebook for where they will have their truck next. You can also go get your food and skedaddle. So if they're in a parking lot, you can go buy your food, go home and enjoy it. But I'm telling you right now, brisket in this town, hard to find. Safeside has absolutely the best. Find them, SafesideBBQ.com, to find out where that food truck's going to be next.
Okay, this one is from, well, I'm seeing it from, I guess, Forbes. I can't tell if this is aggregated or if it's being reported by Forbes. But as the Bulls are preparing to sign Josh Giddey to a new long-term contract extension, rival teams believe combo guard Kobe White could be made available in trade talks over the next few weeks. White, who is also extension eligible, averaged 20.5 points per game for the Chicago Bulls this season. So some context on him. I threw his name out a few minutes ago just on like my list of who could be a running mate next to Anthony Edwards. So he is 26 years old in February. So this will be his age 25 season. And he had a career-high scoring average with Chicago, 20.5 points a game this year, on career-high field goal percentage. So pretty high efficiency, 45.5% from the field. He's been a 37% three-point shooter on high volume the last few years. He's torched the Wolves a couple times, too.
I was going to say, yeah, he's had some big games against the Wolves. You're right.
Yes, but a 6'5" ball-handling combo guard who this upcoming season makes just $12.8 million, and then you'd have to figure out the extension maybe this summer going into future years. But, you know, if you were to, for 1 year of Kobe White, you're not trading Jaden McDaniels. You're not trading, you might be able to pull that off with like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker sign-in trade or whatever other pieces would come via like a third team.
Sure.
Maybe there's a draft pick involved in there somewhere. I don't think it would take the 17th overall pick, but that would be interesting. So there's moves like that haven't even been bandied about much yet, at least publicly, because everyone's so fixated, rightfully so, on the Kevin Durant situation. But there's like 5 or 6 other things that they could turn to here that may pop up in the next couple weeks.
And I feel like the Durant possibility here is like a trip to the candy store. Like, it's cool, right? Like, I mean, he's a huge name.
Yeah.
You could make a case he's not what they need the most, but you're talking about a Hall of Fame guy who Ant absolutely loves. It would be fun. But yeah, Derek White or Kobe, I mean, I think those are very intriguing. I will tell you the other thing that we have not brought up today, but it continues to concern me too, and that is the continuing regression, or at least the possibility of Gobert. So that's another thing I think we shouldn't sleep on, because his regression is probably going to come quickly now. And if that's the case, that's definitely going to hurt you. So I do think that there are a lot of potential moving parts here that could be addressed. And I also don't think, I guess at the end of the day, that standing pat is the best move. On the Gobert one, I would love to get in front of that, because if he continues to regress in some key categories next season, I think it's going to cause you problems, real problems.
To piggyback off that point, what you have to be asking yourself in those rooms behind closed doors, the shadowy rooms of Tim Connolly.
With like two people he trusts, maybe less.
It's probably less. It's probably it's a person and a dog, or probably.
Good boy.
I think you have to ask yourself how much of Rudy's regression in some key areas was due to like some back flare up injury stuff versus age. Because there was a little regression his first year in Minnesota from where he was in Utah, and then he bounced back, and like his shot blocking rate, for instance, was way down, and then it spiked back up in year 2, but then it was back down in year 3.
Yep.
Is this a declining, aging player? A, determine like the extent of the decline, but B, is it mitigated a little because you're paying him less money? And therefore, he's at that age where you've set the precedent too already with him, where you can just kind of like not play him 35 minutes a night. Can he be valuable for you in 22 minutes or 24 minutes? But and also, I guess, C, if you floated him in trade talks, are there other teams desperate to become better at rim protection and shot blocking and just overall defense that would gladly take even a lesser version of Rudy off your hands because they can't stop anybody.
Yep.
But some of the things that are alarming, he had last year a career low rebounding percentage, total rebounding percentage. He had the lowest defensive rebounding percentage by a mile of his career. He got smoked on the defensive glass. And he had the second lowest block percentage of his entire career, just ahead of the lowest, which was his first year in Minnesota, where he had some knee problems and whatnot. So, like, I don't know that those things are going back the other direction. He's going to be 33 years old. Yep. But is he still, like, even a 75% version of what you traded for? Is that still valuable? Can you win a championship with that? Like, these are, like, important discussions to be figured out in the next probably 2 weeks by the Timberwolves.
I would love to know what they know about his back, because I would tie his age and his back together. Like, I don't know. There's some things that start to go wrong, and it's like, that's fine. He could have 3 more years. It's fine. Backs really concern me, and with a dude that big, it really would worry me. And I'm sure that they have a pretty good handle on that. But that's where I would love to convince a team, hey, you know what? He didn't have the greatest year in these metrics possibly, but he's still a Gobert. He's still going to give you a lot. And privately, it's like, okay, we're not sure about that. That's where I think he contributed a lot, but at his age, and if he's had a back flare up, I don't know that's going away and that it's not going to get worse unless it was a very small thing. But I don't know there's a small back problem with a human being that size.
It does kind of feel like he has served his purpose for these 3 years.
Yes.
He has helped drastically raise the floor of this team's performance, and he has helped Anthony Edwards play a ton of really meaningful games in late April and throughout the month of May. But much like D'Angelo Russell was part of going from a 29-win team to a 40-some win playoff team, was he meant to be carried along to be a Western Conference Finals point guard? The answer was no. They needed to make the Mike Conley move. Mm-hmm. Can you get from being a team that gets kind of smoked in the Western Conference Finals to be a team that has a chance to actually win a championship with aging, declining Rudy Gobert as a central figure for your operation?
And if you go back now, too, and think about the OKC series, all right? If you go back to it, are you telling me, because, again, that's a really good team, and it's going to be a good team for a while. Are you telling me that if they go status quo and run it back, that you think that the Timberwolves can magically take a step and beat them status quo next spring? Because I don't think that they can.
And I think as long as Rudy and Randall are still taking up as much literal and figurative space in your operation, and sort of putting a thumb on the best version of Jaden, limiting the amount of minutes that a Terrence Shannon Jr. gets, or like Rob Dillingham. Not that Gobert is taking Dillingham minutes, but you know what I mean. Like, just making sure that the young core has room to breathe and grow and get better. that's what Oklahoma City, it's funny going through these options of, like last year, Oklahoma City gets bounced in the playoffs, and they're faced with, we have all of this draft capital, all these young players. Do we, a year ago, make a massive move for a big name? Do we run it back? Or do we get better in the margins? And what they did was they chose option C, get better in the margins. They traded Josh Giddey, who is a good young player, to Chicago for Alex Caruso. They brought in Hartenstein as a shot blocking rim protector. Neither one of those guys is one of their three best players, but those guys are super important to them being 2 wins away from winning the NBA championship with their defense and energy and culture and all those things. And it allowed the younger guys to keep getting better and grow into being the leaders that they are now.
And go back and look at teams that have reached a championship caliber, and it took them some time, which in basketball happens a lot, and look at how the supporting cast changes. Like, the tweaking with the supporting cast of those teams was constant, and brought in some incredibly important guys who became staples of the championship team, but they certainly weren't the most important, but they weren't necessarily there when, like, the run began. And so I think, like, Hartenstein and Caruso are huge. They're absolutely huge. Yep. Hartenstein's a monster. He's great. And Caruso, I mean, he is a pest, and he's great at that. So that's where I think the Timberwolves, like, ideally, that's where you improve as you continue to change that cast. But I would love to see them have a point guard or a ball handler who can play consistently, who can just calm things down, because it does feel like in
and who
Dallas,
can score, by the way.
And score. But it feels like in the Mavericks series and in the Thunder series that the Timberwolves sort of freaked out. Like, things started to go against them, and that's where, if Conley was 28, it probably would have been fine. But that, a guy that can score, handle the ball, play consistently, and that you're pretty damn sure what you're going to get.
Yeah. I'll leave you with this on Conley. Conley has been so great for this organization, and I hope for this team's sake that he is still on the team. If they have to include his contract to get someone via trade, then, that's life in the NBA. But I think it'd be great if he sort of served the Wolves culture purpose guy, where maybe he plays 10, 12, 15 minutes, but you're not relying on him as a starter. Last year, Mike Conley played in 71 regular season games for the Wolves. His scoring high was 18 points. And he's never been like a guy that's going to carry your offense. But he scored single digits or 0 points in 47 of the 71 games in the regular season. In the playoffs, again, it's like, man, these games are tightening up. The defenses are tightening up. He played in 15 playoff games for the Wolves. He scored double digits twice in 15 playoff games, including 0 points 3 times in games in which he played 20 minutes or more. So it's like, it's great to have that responsible adult point guard, right? But you really need someone that can pour in 24 points once in a while too. And whether it's an actual point guard or whether it's a Kevin Durant or someone that can just handle the ball and score some points once in a while. So anyways, that's your latest Timberwolves news.
It's the latest Timberwolves news.
Darn right it is.
My power's back, so I'm very happy right now.
Judd's power is back. Tim Connolly's power is about to be back when he lurks in the shadows and pulls a third blockbuster in 4 years. All right, for the sports dad, for often mustache producer Declan, I am Phil, and this is Flagrant Howls, a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.